Well, let's talk about a better way to live. Adam and Eve, placed in a beautiful place, a perfect place, and yet they corrupted it. What happened? There was just something inside of them. You know, if you're not familiar with the story, it began with Satan in the form of a serpent tempting Eve with the forbidden fruit. And you know, I can't help but thinking that there was nothing wrong with that fruit, that it might have been a pear or a banana or an apple, and the only thing that made it forbidden was that God said, don't eat this. And I can't help but thinking, I mean, he called it the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, is what he called it. And don't you see, he could have named any tree that. He could have named the pomegranate tree, tree of knowledge of good and evil, because he told Adam and Eve, don't eat from that tree, this tree right here, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And I don't have to give you any explanation. I'm just telling you, don't eat from this tree. Well, don't you see? Eating from that tree, when God said don't eat from that tree, would give you a first-hand experience, would give you for the first time knowledge of good and evil. And Adam and Eve both learned what was good and what was evil that day when they disobeyed God. Just as every child, every 4-year-old child learns what good and evil is when he disobeys his parents. Hey, I'm going to have to stop the broadcast right here. My daughter just came home from college. I'll get back with you. I'm back. My daughter's going to school at the University of North Texas. She just popped in to grab some stuff. Anyway, pardon the interruption. In the future, when I learn how to use the editing software, we might not have these little interruptions. Anyway, we were talking about Adam and Eve learning the difference between right and wrong when they disobeyed God. And their life after that got a lot worse. Eve was cursed with pain during childbirth. Adam had to grow food by the sweat of his brow because of the thorns and thistles there in the ground. But they lost something else. They lost that special close relationship they had with God there. They used to hang out with him in the cool of the evening. He'd just stop by and they'd talk about what's going on. And they lost that tight personal relationship. And if you look around in the world today, you'll see in the same way that the world in general has lost a close personal relationship with God. And the cause is the sin. You know, there's a lot of selfishness out there. There's a lot of hate and envy, jealousy, apathy, laziness. Just name all the bad attributes of mankind that you can think of. And what are the cause? The cause is us. We are the problem. It reminds me of that Pogo cartoon where Pogo says he returns from a scouting expedition and he says, "We have encountered the enemy and it is us." Truer words were never spoken. We have encountered the enemy and it is us. We are the enemy. It's our own depraved, selfish, self-interested spirit that makes the world a terrible place, that makes our lives a miserable, pathetic wreck. So what can we do about it? Well, I'll tell you what I did about it. When I was 14 years old, a confused, mixed up, frustrated, desperate teenager, I gave up. Maybe you don't think that a 14-year-old can make a decision like that. Maybe you think that he's too young and immature to understand what frustration or desperation is. But I was there, and I was desperate and frustrated, and I turned to God as a last resort. Just to, my life really sucked, and what did I have to lose was my attitude. And so I jumped in with both feet. Best decision I ever made. And in the following weeks, we're going to talk about the good life. Pardon me. The Bible, I call it the owner's manual for life. Anyway, the next following weeks we're going to talk about what the Bible says about how to live a good life. And it turns out that it's counterintuitive. Do you know what counterintuitive means? It means that at first blush, it means that when you first hear it, you say, oh, that can't be true, that's not right. But it turns out that a lot of living the way God intended us to live is counterintuitive. It doesn't seem like it would be true, but it really is. For example, you'd think that if you wanted to be happy, that you need to be thinking about yourself. That makes sense. If I want to be happy, I need to be thinking about what pleases me and doing everything that I can to do those things that please me. But you know what? It doesn't work that way. It turns out that if you think about others more than think about yourself, your life gets better. Don't ask me how. It doesn't make any sense. You'd think that if you wanted to make a lot of money, if you wanted to be rich, you should, grab all you can get. Make as much money as you can. Devote yourself to accumulating material things. But the Bible says that if you give away your money, you end up getting a lot more back. Now, I'm not talking about getting rich by giving away your money. But the Bible does say that you're better off if you are generous, and if you're not trying to see how much stuff you can get for yourself, but if you give your money away. And I have found that to be true, and it doesn't make any sense. It's counterintuitive. But if you give your money away, it seems like you don't have as many financial problems. Anyway, we'll be talking about that and about nothing. Anyway, all this is just to say, the point is, it's ourselves that makes life miserable. And the owner's manual of life tells us how we ought to live life. And even if you don't believe that this Bible, the owner's manual for life, even if you don't believe that God inspired these words for our benefit, you might at least consider that we've got 5,000 years of distilled wisdom in here. Maybe you don't believe there's such a thing as wisdom. But that's what we're going to be talking about, is the owner's manual for life, how it helps you live better. Anyway, what I was saying.